this one's titled Luffy Didn't Die. Kaido says to Luffy, I thought you were dead. Luffy yells out, me too. Kaido then further dissects Luffy's newfound abilities and says that he's awakened his paramethea ability since he's turning his surroundings to rubber. But the way Luffy transforms resembles a Zoan. Kaido, while in thought, suddenly chomps down Luffy. Luffy gets swallowed up, and he starts to zigzag through Kaido's body as he punches and kicks him from the inside. Then Luffy does balloon Fusan inside of Kaido, causing him much pain. Kaido then thinks to himself again as to how Luffy's turning him into rubber too. Luffy, while inside Kaido, sees through Kaido's eyes and pushes his hands through Kaido's eyes to grab his nose. What are your thoughts on this whole exchange, Lawrence?
So where'd you end that? I'm sorry.
After
grabbing the nose.
Grabbing the
eyes.
nose.
Yeah.
Grabbing the nose, yeah.
So I'm happy because remember this. I called this in a way. Again, it's like to be expected, but I said Luffy's going to turn his surroundings into rubber, and I thought of how he could use that into. He hasn't used it yet, but like how use that into attack. Like you think of like the paddle ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here, but like Luffy hitting Kaido to the ground, Kaido bouncing back from the ground to Luffy, and just like Luffy's using Gatling, hitting him up and down. So we see that one aspect where he's able to affect the ground because we see Luffy bouncing off it, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said earlier, it's just so wacky at this point. Like, yes, you mentioned too, it makes Luffy more like Luffy, right? But it's like it's more of a wacky and goofier Luffy than we're used to. Because Luffy's a real, but like Luffy said in the beginning that when he's fighting, he's always serious, right? Like Luffy said that when I'm fighting, I'm always serious because he's fighting to win. You know, he's not fighting to have fun because it's a serious moment. Now this where like I go into this like where it takes Luffy a little out of different from this because Luffy's not really serious. He's like a fun-loving person where it's more focused on having fun than fighting now, even though he is fighting. So that's like a wacky Luffy. So I'm still going into how I feel about it. But besides that, it's actually pretty interesting because what he's able to do. So he gets eaten, and I think Oda wouldn't do this, but for a second, it's like, yo, imagine he just ripped out Kaido, like he just ended Kaido right there, like because he got so big and just ripped him from the inside. But I was like, I don't see Kaido getting taken out like that, and him going out of the eyes, I'm like, and then you bring out a point that it looked like he possibly was turning Kaido into rubber. That's interesting because really, Kaido should have lost his eyes. Like that's why I'm like, what is happening here? Like, are you going that cartoonish where like you could do something like it looked like it would kill, normal person, but now because you're like more cartoonist, it's like a cartoon where the real effects of that didn't work. Yeah. Because him stretching through his eyes from the inside, then coming out of his eyes should have ripped his eye sockets out. But I was looking, Kaido's eyes doesn't seem to, like, it may have hurt him, it looked, but the effects of it actually ripping through his eyes and him going blind or whatever are not there. He still has his eyes. Yeah. So this is that wackiness where we're like, what is going on with Luffy's ability comes to question, Yeah. Like, even are you able to affect even, like, people and living things to make them rubber as well? Because there's just so much going on here. But,
okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Seb?
I really did like, and I know people in the Discord were like expecting me not to like this chapter because like it was more happy instead of the drama I'm looking for. But I did like this chapter, and I like this opening part of Luffy bouncing. Like I thought that was cool, like Luffy in a bouncy castle, Kaido trying to eat him. I always think it's weird when Kaido tries to eat Devil Fruit users because like. Does he have no fear of like whatever the ramifications of that could possibly be? But whatever. I thought that was fun. Luffy bouncing inside of him. And to Lawrence's point, like it seems to me that he's turning Kaido into rubber. Because he even says, my body isn't made of rubber. Like, why is this happening to me? So like he's basically affecting beyond just the surroundings, he's also affecting other people and like whether or not they can be rubberized, which is kind of wild. I'm trying to remember if any of the other awakenings had that level of brokenness to them.
Probably the closest is going to be Boa's.
Boa's, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but in general, like, the eye thing, and we had a huge conversation about this with what's going to be the last panel here. He's just turning Kaido's eyes into rubber and stretching through them. You know what I mean? So, like, he's not, like, ripping through Kaido's eyes. Yeah. He's just rubberizing them from the back through the front. Grabbing him and then pulling it this way and then turning them back to normal when he leaves. Yeah. When he loses contact. So, like, it looks wild. It looks crazy when you see it. But I don't think it's, like, I don't think it's him ripping through Kaido's eyes. That would have been insane.
Yeah, that would have been
That
crazy.
would have been insane. I would have did that instead.
Yeah,
honestly.
that was probably more effective.
That would have been way more effective.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a future sight user, maybe not, but it still should have been more effective. But I liked it. I liked the whole opening start here, and you ended there, so I'll stop.
Yeah.
But how about you?
It was weird for me. It's just weird for me seeing something like that, and I think it's supposed to be weird because that's just the way Oda's mind works, and you're supposed to you're expecting something, and your expectations get blown, right? So I love the fact that Luffy happens to be bouncing. I think anytime he's bouncing, it relates to Rubber, and it makes me feel better about witnessing him fight because it makes his fights better in a way. The only thing I didn't like about this scene was realistically him gouging Kaido's eyes and pushing himself out in a way. I didn't like that. The reason I didn't like it because it is too wacky and cartoonish, but most of all, it makes me start to think this, right? Luffy's Devil Fruit is so OP that you now have to realize that Kaido no longer has his bones and structure of his skin and resilience, you know? If he's being turned to rubber, that means that the only thing that's affecting Luffy overall is the haki of Kaido. There's no weight behind the punches now unless it's like the weight of rubber. You know what I'm saying? Like getting hit with bone or getting hit with metal is going to hurt so much more than getting hit with like rubber, right? He basically neutralizes the physical capabilities that Kaido has. There's no other person in the entirety of the show that can literally alter your ability. I mean, like just you physically, unless they actually try to hurt you. There's nobody that's able to do that. Every time we've seen an awakening, it was from Dofi. He did his surroundings. You know, we had another Paramecia, did his surroundings. We've seen Logias did their surroundings, right? On Punk Hazard. But it's like, this dude is not only able to do cartoonish stuff, which Toon Power is just OP already, he's able to literally change the landscape of your anatomy. Like, do you know what we're actually talking about now?
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
the only person that can combat this is literally Blackbeard.
Yeah.
And, like, does Blackbeard have to have that passive ability of taking away your power all the time? Does he have to have a hand spinning all of the
He could
time?
probably cloak his entire body in darkness, but I feel you.
Yeah, like, Blackbeard would have to do that. So we're like, Luffy's at another scale in terms of power, in my opinion. And I think it's super unfair.
That's what power-ups do.